Hello, gun runner here. Finally got my hands on the new Canik MC9 Prime. It's been a little hard to track this guy down. One of my local stores finally got it in and I was able to pick it up. So I got to go out and shoot it last night. Nice little pistol. But I kind of wanted to compare it against some other things so everybody has an idea what they're getting into. This will be the most closest comparison. This is the MC9 LS that came out last fall. This was a great little pistol, but the Prime definitely upstages this. Now you can tell on this unit I've already upgraded the trigger and put the rival style trigger in it, which I do on almost all my Caniks. I like the rival style triggers, so I've replaced it out in all of them. The main reason is the breaking point. When you put these triggers in here, it doesn't change the pull weight. It primarily changes where the trigger breaks at. These triggers break at 90 degrees, where the standard Canik triggers come all the way to the rear before they actually break. And that's one of my pet peeves with these guns, how far back you have to come to get to that trigger break. Still a very nice trigger. It's just all the way to the rear. Well, of course, the Prime comes out of the box. I originally thought these were the standard rival style trigger, kind of like what they put in the TTI Combat, the rival style trigger. It's not. This is a different trigger. They've changed the angle on this, and it seems like they've introduced a little bit more slack into it, probably for safety, because this is primarily a carry gun. But because of the angle they put on it, it still has a 90-degree break. It just has more slack on the front end of the trigger. And it still has the phenomenal reset that we've come to love with the Caniks, that super quick reset. And it's maintaining 90 degrees, it's just farther back. And on the Prime, they also increased the size of the trigger guard area, because if you put the rival style trigger in the standard size trigger guard on the MC9 size, it does fill it up and kind of reduces the amount of space you have here. So here on the Prime, they moved the guard forward, which is also why you see the dust cover comes all the way to the nose of the pistol, where on the LS it didn't. So the dust cover is still pretty much the same size, it's just moved slightly farther forward, and it gives it a different look, having the pick rail all the way up. That's your main differences between the LS and the Prime. They also really knocked it out of the park on the grip texture. On the sides, they made the grip texture come up higher, where on the LS and all the previous MC9s, it was smooth. They moved it up, and the grip texture on the front and the rear is very aggressive compared to what it was on the previous MC9s. This grip texture is very reminiscent to the grip texture they gave us on the TTI Combat. If you look at them side by side, they're very, very similar to what they did on the TTI Combat. Same thing. Kind of smoothed out left the sides, not as aggressive. And then on the rear of the pistol and the front, very aggressive, which is where you need to lock that grip in. They did a real good job on that. Great little gun. The new Canik MC9 Prime. This will be the first shots out of this one. Got an 18-round magazine loaded up. Let's see how she does. Got the MC9 Prime, and I've got the MC9 LS in my holster. I'm going to shoot a magazine with the Prime, and then I'm going to switch and shoot a magazine with the LS, and we'll compare and see if how much effect the ports have on this gun. They're virtually the same guns except for the ports and the better grip texture on the Prime, which is outstanding grip texture. While shooting these two pistols side by side, there is no doubt the ports make it faster return to sight between shots. I would have to say anybody who says that the ports don't work on these guns probably needs to work on their fundamentals, and they don't have their grip down pat. If I release my grip strength, then it would buck around in my hand just like an unported gun. So if you don't feel the ports, work on your fundamentals. MC9 Prime. While shooting the Prime, I did feel there was a slight different timing to the trigger than I was used to on the rival style trigger. It just took me a little bit to get used to it, and the Prime was running fine. MC9 Prime with 124 grain spear gold dots. Thankfully, the Prime feeds these hollow points with ease, no problem at all. Canik TTI Combat. I got the Canik Prime here in my holster. We're going to compare these two side by side. Canik's two ported guns. This has a comp and a port, so we'll see. The TTI Combat definitely is on target faster than the Prime, but the Prime is a very close second. Definitely a winner. Your split times between shots is much shorter with the Prime than even with the previous LS. Still learning the difference in the timing on the Prime's trigger. It is slightly different than the rival. Once you get used to it, it's nice, but it just takes a little adjustment. The Prime with some 147 grain. See how it does with a little bit more recoil. You can really feel the ports coming into action while you're shooting 147 grain with a little more recoil. A few reviews where people with the Prime have been saying the accuracy is only so-so on this gun. I've so far only shot it at 7 yards, but these were clean painted targets, and I'm hitting headshots down there with ease. You should be able to see the headshot splatters. I'm going to run back to 25 and shoot, and let's see what the accuracy looks like at 25 yards. I'm just going to aim center mass on the right IDPA target at 25 yards. It's hard to see the exact shot impacts on these steel IDPA targets, but you can see, if you pay attention, they're almost all center A-zone hits. That's pretty good accuracy at 25 yards, and it was not difficult to do that. I had no trouble at all hitting an IDPA target at 25 yards with that. The accuracy seems to be pretty good to me. Maybe it's the shooter. With the MC9 Prime, a lot of people want to compare this to other guns. And they're reaching out, and a lot of them want to compare it to the slimline Glocks. This is a Glock 48. Of course, you have the 43X and the 48. The 43X, or the Glock 48 here, would be size-wise very close to what the LS was. The MC9L just had a shorter, it had the traditional size MC9 slide on the longer frame. But really, I don't think Canik was going after the Glocks, the slimline Glocks. What they were coming after was the SIG-X Macro, because the SIG-X Macro was the first gun that really hit it out of the park with the right size. They kind of brought us back. A lot of people say they went to the Glock 19 size. I would argue they more went to the Glock 45 size, which is a Glock 19 slide with a longer grip, the Glock 17 grip, that gives you the full purchase and grip on the gun. That's what the kind of the X Macro went after. If you compare it side to side with a Glock 45, you see these grip lengths are the same. So that's what made the X Macro so nice, was that full-length grip. More so than even the Glock 19 grip height, because you end up with your hands still slightly hanging over on a Glock 19, where the Glock 45 gives you the full grip to hang on to. So that's where the X Macro hit it out of the park. They went after the Glock 45 and then made it slim. So we had a slim package instead of the thick package of the Glock 19. So that was a home run for SIG. And this is still a very, very popular gun out there, the SIG X Macro. Where you lack on the SIG is in the trigger. It's just an okay trigger. It's not a bad trigger, but it's just an okay trigger. If they kicked up the reset a notch on that, it would be a better trigger. But it just, when you're shooting this guy, there's just not much to that reset there. It's just not pushing your finger out, or it's not very aggressive on the reset. Just an okay trigger. Not bad, but just okay. Enter into the Canics. Any of the Canics have a superior trigger to both the Glock or the SIG. The only trigger, in my opinion, that can compete with these Canics, you have to get into like the 2011s or the Walther PDP with their performance trigger. That competes to the Canic. But the Walther and the Canic are pretty much brother and sister guns. The new PDP and the new Mete Canics are very, very similar guns. There's a few internal differences, but very similar. We've got a lot of evolution going on here from the original MC9 with the short grip. Of course, there was ways to increase your grip on these MC9s. This is a Magmo grip extension that he made that with a 15-round magazine would kind of give you the full grip. Then we had the MC9L and LS that gave us the full grip with a 17-round magazine. And now we've evolved to the Canik Prime with the same 17-round magazine, full-length grip size to hang on to. They gave us the Magwell, which it's going to depend on your hand size where you think on this Magwell. If you've got big hands, you may not like that Magwell because it's going to push on you a little bit. It fits me very well. I can just barely feel the Magwell there, which is going to make sure that I'm getting that nice high grip that I need for shooting. If you don't like the Magwell, it's just one screw and the Magwell comes off. So don't feel like you can't go with the Prime because it has the Magwell. It's very easy to remove, just like Canik did on the other Metes. They come with a Magwell also that's removable with a single screw. So that's Magwell is kind of a Canik thing they've started doing on all the Mete pistols. There's one of the pros. You can see the Magwell on it also. More aggressive on these, but easily removed. But that gives you a comparison. What does the Prime compare to? In my opinion, that's what Canik went after. They went after the fame of the SIG X Macro, and I think they've knocked it out of the park. This gun, with, I would say, under the $1,200 price point, of which this is only half of that. This is like at $650. There's not another gun on the market that can compete with this gun, in my opinion, for the feature set you're getting. Ported barrels, the grip texture, the trigger, the Magwell, being RMSC compatible with optics. Very, very nice co-witness with the optics. If you don't like the optics, it comes with a great set of iron sights that are tritium night sights. So right out of the box, the value you're getting at this is awesome. The price difference between these two guns warrants getting the Prime over the LS just with the features you're getting. On my LS here, I added the trigger. Well, that's an additional $65, $70 to add that trigger. And then I've upgraded my texturing on the back strap to lock it into my hand with a Magmo, his real aggressive grip texture. I'm not sure what he's calling this new design. Previously, he had the grit style, which was like sandpaper, which was very nice. Now he's got this real aggressive. It's if you just rub it, it's not bad, but when you grab it to your hand, it really locks into your hand to the point where you can see the marks it leaves in your hand after you shoot it. So he did a good job with those. The Prime is definitely a very, very nice shooting gun. Great pistol. Couple here tips for you. One of the complaints I'm hearing with the Prime is the holster they provide is when you out of the box, the retention on this thing is stupid. It's hard to get it out once you put it in there. Well, what I did was, this is the spacer. There's a screw down here. This is supposed to be for adjusting the retention. Well, I had this screw backed all the way out to where it was ready to fall out, and I still could barely get the gun out. It had too much retention. So I took this bushing out, and I make my own holsters. So I use one of the bushings that I use in my holsters, which is just a piece of 3/16 fuel line cut to a 1/2 inch long. And I took one of those and inserted it down in here in place of the Canik bushing. And you can see the size difference between the Canik bushing and my 1/2 inch bushing. So that opened up the holster, and then you can adjust this tight to adjust your retention, because this rubber piece of rubber fuel line that we've used as the bushing, it just crushes to whatever distance you need. If you can kind of see in there, this one's really crushed out because this has had the retention set on it. So that'll make this a usable holster just by changing out. And you can get this at any auto parts store. 3/16 fuel line, they sell it by the foot, and I want to say it's like $4 for a foot of it. And then maybe they'll sell you a little piece, or they might even give you a little piece if you only ask for a 1/2 inch. But that's a 1/2 inch of 3/16 fuel line. Take out the Canik bushing, insert that, and you'll have a usable holster. If you have a holster that you've already purchased for the LS, a standard Kydex holster will not work, because the way they've moved the trigger guard forward, you're not going to get your retention in here because it's in the wrong spot. Where with an LS, snaps right in there, it's at a different spot. So you're not going to get your retention. It's not going to work in a standard LS holster. However, this is a holster for the LS that I made specifically for the Olight Balder Mini. The retention on this is not designed around the trigger guard, it's designed around the flashlight. So this is a LS holster for the Balder Mini, and it does work for the Prime. Once again, the retention is based on the flashlight, not based on the trigger guard. So if you have a light bearing holster for the LS, it will work for the Prime. But if you have a standard holster for the LS, it's not.
Prime specific.
You're going to have to get an LS specific holster, which we talked about how you can make this one actually a functional holster. And this one has the option, 4 options. It's for left-handed or right-handed, and then also there's a paddle in the bottom of the case that you can make this an outside the waistband paddle holster, or use the clip to make it an inside the waistband. So that is a functional holster once you make a very inexpensive, cheap mod to it. So that's my thoughts overall on the MC9 Prime. Thanks for watching. If you like the video, give me a like and a subscribe. If you disagree with my opinions on here, let me know that too. Jump in the comments.